Thank you. Yeah, this is a really good round of applause in DjangoCon. It's really good. Thank you for being awake. I'm not very awake. I'm very tired, actually. If you talked to me this morning, I was like, oh, what am I doing here? But I hope I'll survive this talk, and so do you. So, like I always said, this is the most important slide of the whole deck, and because you got to take a picture of the link to the whole slide deck, so you don't have to take a picture of like any other slides if you got this slide. My contact information is there, so if you have more questions, drop me a message either on Twitter or Mastodon. It's same handle, so you can still find me there. And also, apologies, because the background here, you can see that, wow, it's like very, very fiery, right? All people are fighting. But this is not what I'm trying to convey through this picture. I'm trying to convey is like the sporting spirit behind it, that we are actually in a very, hopefully, constructive competition. So by comparing two different kind of approaches, we are trying to find the better one, or find one that suits us. It's not a kind of competition in a bad way. So that being said, let's jump into the talk. So, actually, I have a clicker, I forgot. So I don't have to go back and forth. So I'm Cheuk. I work for Anaconda, and I love open source projects. Have been involved in various ones in the past. I'm still contributing to open source projects whenever I can, and also I organize events. So actually, I've changed the logo of EuroPython. That was last year. I will tell you more about EuroPython later. So, who have heard of Project Iodide? A few hands, yes. So maybe you're just like not very awake. That's why you didn't put up your hands. So Project Iodide is actually, it's something that has been there for a while. So Mozilla, the company that basically is most famously known for Firefox, the browser. So they are trying something new. They are trying to see if they can build a scientific tool that basically can run and interactive, so it can be run fully using the browser. So no backend is needed. It's not like Jupyter Notebook. For those of you who have tried to use Jupyter Notebook, there's like a server running. It's actually a Tornado framework. If you strip everything down, it's a Tornado framework. But so it's not like that. But that project is actually not Python specific. It's just an idea of building that tool for people who work with data, who are like researchers, who work with scientific things. Unfortunately, the project is sunset a few years ago, 2020. It's quite a long time ago, in September. So, this is I kind of find this old website that you can kind of still see what the project is about. It's really cool. If you have the slide deck, you can click on the link and go there, and you get more demonstration from that page. You can see what it was supposed to be, if the project is still alive. So it looks really cool. To do that, actually, to make all of these available, right? All these supercomputing power, but only on the browser, is actually we're using Wasm. So what is Wasm? So let's just go through that a little bit, because we want to get everybody on the same page. So let's imagine, right? So for your computer, for example, this one here, it will have a CPU chip. Okay, so that's basically your processor. That's the kind of, we say, is the brain of your computer. We write Python, right? So look at the bottom of the screen here. So on the left-hand side at the bottom. So we write Python. So when we write Python, actually, it doesn't go straight to the brain of your computer. So you need to go through a lot of steps, because your computer actually don't understand Python, to be frank. First of all, what is Python? The C Python that you download from python.org is actually an interpreter. So what it does is that why it's called C Python? Because it's written in C. So what it does is it will read your Python code and then understand your Python code and then change it into, so using C, it will change it into a C code that got compiled. So so for those of you who are too young, always compiling code and stuff because you write Python directly. So in the old days, a lot of code that we write needs to be compiled before we can execute them. So the compilation process actually is converting the code that you write into machine code that your computer understands. So there are a lot of steps to translate your Python code that you understand into a code that the computer understands. This is what it does. But if, let's say, we want to run everything on the browser, instead of using the CPU chip in your computer, we are using a virtual machine on your browser. So it's basically supposed to be the same on all computers as long as you have that browser installed. So we have some comparison here. So you also write Python code. So this is the ideal, right? Like, well, we want to write Python code. And then we go through Iodide, which is a, I will explain a little bit more later. So it's kind of like a Python version of, of this. So it's, so sorry, it goes to sleep. So let me wake up in a bit. So, yeah, I have to keep my hand on it so it doesn't go to bed. It's too early. Come on, wake up. Oh, okay. So, so it's like you write Python, and then instead of CPython doing the interpretation, it's the Pyodide that do the interpretation. So instead of a C compiler that compile the C code into machine codes, there is a tool called Emscripten, which is we can compile a lot of different languages into a Wasm code, which the virtual machine on your browser understand. So this is kind of an analogy of how, like from Python code, we can, get it to running. So, but let's go back to Project Iodide. So Project Iodide tried to do everything, especially scientific things on with Wasm to be able to run it on your browser. But why it was sunset? Why it's not that popular? Because some of us haven't heard about it before. There are a few issues because the project is not community-driven. I would say that's the main problem. But, for example, compared to other projects in the Python community, for example, Jupyter, so Jupyter projects always, have in mind that it needs to be community-driven, and need to have the community to really adopt and using it. So Project Iodide wasn't as successful because it's mainly maintained by a company, supported by one company. So if the company made the decision that, okay, we closing down the project, then it got sunset, right? Like many other things that we see in the tech world. So, but it's not that everything is lost. Usually when it happens, if it's an open source project, there will be a community who step up and say like, no, we want that, we love it, we will maintain it ourselves. So, so that's become the project Pyodide. So Pyodide is actually a community-run project. Is actually, get a lot of interest from the Python community because, a lot of people who do data science and scientific research are now using Python. So there are lots of interest of that. So that's why from Project Iodide, now we have Project Pyodide, and then it's driven by the community. So I've met some of those maintainers of Project Pyodide. They are lovely folks. Like, next time you see them, buy them a coffee or a drink, just to thank them. So we are in the age of Python on the browser. I think in the past few years, since I've been to a lot of conferences, there's always some talk about Wasm, talk about how to run Python on the browser in one way or the other. Like, it could be like Pyodide or like, about PiScript, which I'm going to cover in a bit. So, why Project Pyodide is so successful, I think, is that not just because Python is very popular, but it also allows a lot of Python package, which is what makes Python so loved by a lot of researchers. So it provides those as well. So it's not just a vanilla interpreter like your CPython. It's actually come with all the other things that you can pip install is also available. So you can pip install pandas to your web browser. You can pip install NumPy into your web browser. You can even pip install Django in your web browser. Last year, if you remember, if you've been to DjangoCon in Porto, someone gave a lightning talk in the Python Portugal, which is like a 1 day of conference right after the DjangoCon. Someone make Django run on a browser, so there's browser as a backend. I don't know what's going on there, so this is what happened, and so now I think the most kind of popular use of that is that, for example, now we instead of Jupyter Notebook, which again, we need a server to do that, we have Jupyter Lite, which again, everything is run on the browser. So you can basically have a Jupyter Notebook that doesn't need a backend. Also, you can build lots of like front-end application with PiScript, which is what I'm going to cover in a bit. So PiScript, what is PiScript? PiScript is actually a framework that allow you to write Python. You can just write Python on your HTML file if you want, but it's not recommended. It also allow you the access to DOM, almost like JavaScript, but replace it with Python. Also, like you can change between Pyodide, which is I just cover what is Pyodide, but you can also use MicroPython, which is like a lightweight version of Python. The reason of doing that is that because it will load faster. We will see why in a bit when I demonstrate. And also, there's like that's what makes it so attractive is that we have packages available, and thank you, Pyodide. So if you want to try it out, there's also a playground on PiScript.com. You can sign up, just sign up, and then it's almost like the CodePen or something like that. You can create a PiScript project and share it with people. So this is how a code will look like. I'm not going to go through them line by line, of course, but you can see that at the beginning there. Oh, I should have highlighted, but I hope this works. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Okay. So you can see that at the beginning we would kind of, call in like the PiScript.js over there, if you can spot it, and PiScript.css. So those are actually, now is like CDN from PiScript.net, but you can actually self-host it if you want to. You can download it, and this is using the latest, so it's not recommended. Again, like pin the version if you can. So you just need to use the link that you have to explicitly say which version you want to use, and then you can do this. Like you can. I want to show you this amazing thing. So you can write Python here. So with the PiScript tag, you can write Python here. So yeah, it reminds me of during the old days when, in the 2000s, I like fooling around the internet. I would right-click and view source and see all the HTML, like how to make this web page. And now people can, there's open source, right? Like people can see your source code, like your Python code on the HTML file. But it's not necessarily like this. This is a demo. You can actually call in like using the pyconfig tag. You can load in extra file if you want. For example, here, it loads in the utils and pylist.py. So yeah, I'm not going to cover all because this is not a talk solely about PiScript, so check it out if you're interested. This is, again, a demo. You can see that it's spinning because it's trying to load in the all the things that you need from Pyodide. So, for example, I will be buy milk, okay? So if I do that and then add task, it would, just like the normal to-do list. All of these are code that is run, so all of them are Python code. Like if you inspect that, like I don't write JavaScript, it's not JavaScript. So yeah, there's no backend either, so that's cool. So, I have to come here now. It doesn't work like that, okay. What's going on? Okay, I think because I click on, okay, fine. So, now it's like the front end is getting thicker and thicker, right? We load everything on the browser. There's no backend. We don't use backend anymore. So is that cool? Is that what we want? Of course there are limitations like everything in the world. For example, the loading time, like I said, there would be a spinning wheel. So that example is very simple, but it still takes some time to load. If you load in something like a pandas and it's some data file, then oh my god, like it would spin for quite a while, and it got annoying for your user. Also, there's like limitation of the RAM you can have in your VM, of the browser VM. Like, I think right now the industry standard is 4 GB of RAM, but it may improve in the future. But still, there's limitation. You can't have everything on the browser, to be honest. But it's handy if some like data scientists want to just like do some illustration. Again, like there's some use case that's useful for education because for kids it's fun to do and it's not sophisticated. But there are other approach, right? There's not just like one thing that's to solve all the problems. Sometimes we want to make it thinner. So HTML, I love it. I told you I have like since the 2000s I like right click and see all the HTML like tags and stuff. So it's back in fashion. We love text now. We want to just write HTML. HTMX, everybody knows about HTMX, I assume? Or who knows? Please raise your hands. Yoo-hoo! Yes. Yeah, I feel like this community really loves HTMX, which is great. So So this is like some of these points I copied from their website. So is for example, like it's very lightweight. It's lighter than React, you know, and some of them is my opinion about it. For example, like, oh, you don't have to write JavaScript. You can just write HTML text. So it would dynamically change element, and also everything is in one place. If you have been to Carlton's talk yesterday, you know that, you know, there's benefit of putting everything in one place instead of opening multiple files. You see what's going on very easily. So. But now we talk about using Django with HTMX. So yeah, how the two things work together? I'm sure you will know because, like, you know, we are the DjangoCon and everybody loves HTMX, so there's a lot of talk about it. But I'm going to just briefly cover something and then show you a very small demo. So one thing that I realized when I start like learning, okay, how can I use HTMX with Django, is that I got mentioned a lot of times that we need this CSRF security token. So sometimes I got like errors because I forgot I need a token. So I will show you some code like how you can put that in. So HTMX elements, you know, well, I assume you know, but like I would just cover the basic that you have to put those attributes in the tag to make it work, and then you put that, you know, when you create the template for your Django project, then you put that in there. It will dynamically change the page, so I'm going to show you later. There's also people who create like plugins to make it easier for you to deploy a project with Django and HTMX. So for example, Django HTMX, I think Adam is not here, he left early, but yeah, so that's, you know, thank him for creating all these amazing tools. So this is, you know, because Django project, you have multiple files, so this is only two of them. So for example, this one is the base.html, so this is one of the template that you would use. So here, I want to show you this because this is, well, this is not my code. I find it on someone's blog post, so you can go there and have a look. But so this is actually adding the token there, so that makes sure that you won't come into that like CSRF token error later when you use HTMX. And then when you use it, it's very cool because you basically put everything. Everything is in the tag here, so you can see that it kind of say that, oh, it's you know, you don't have to write any JavaScript or AJAX or anything like that. It's just like, you know, all in the tag attribute. So here, I want to show you, oops, okay, one sec. Oh, okay. So, okay. Oh, it works here, okay. Sorry, if you don't see my face, sorry, but you see the demo, which is a good thing. So, this is what I created. It's a small kind of minimalist example of how you use them together. You see that here, I have multiple templates, you know, like I showed you before, we have to have the token, you know, inject into it. And then I have multiple HTML. So these are different section of the page, because, you know, I will call them here. So they are including the add task and the task list. So with some task lists here, I have actually, this is how I can delete an element. Sorry, I need some coffee. So, for example, this is how you can delete an element. You just, for example, here, if I create a link, then I would actually have the attribute to call the AJAX delete, which is sending a request to the back. So if you see the views here, is that I have delete task and create task. So for example, if the method is delete, like the one before AJAX delete, then it will go here. And it will delete the task. So here, maybe I'll show you, actually, before I talk more about it, because it doesn't make sense for me if I don't show you, so I have to show you. So for example, buy milk. Right, so you can, so all these are actually, you know, nothing new, right? Oh, I've seen this before, you just like put some JavaScript. No, you don't have to now, you just use HTMX, you see? These are all elements. These are all just elements here. And if you add more things here, for example, buy bread. We need milk and bread for breakfast. Okay, so If you see here, so this is basically just a token, so ignore that. But if you see here, then like, this one is actually just the form, if I can find it here. It's just the form, so there's no JavaScript in here, they're all HTMX. So if you save, and then it changed. So you see now, instead of having one list element, I have two. So it just changed them dynamically, and then I can delete anything here. So if you click on it, then it would even have the prompt. You can also have this, and then it would delete it, and then replace the element with the one without the milk. So it's all just like, so that's why I think HTMX works so well with Django, is because we can just call each of them is actually a function in the view. So just works hand in hand, and it works very well. Okay, so for example, look at task. So this one is the form actually. So it's just a form, right? Everything is HTML. We just have various attributes. We just have to point to the right target, and then replace the right element, and then it will work, because if you look at URLs, because each of them actually will be corresponding to one of the paths, and then it will just call our views and then replace it, right? So all of them are actually just request call. So it's very cool, and I think I don't know if it's like designed to work like that, but it works very well with Django, so it's very good. So what time do I have left? I'm kind of lose track of the time. But anyway, okay, let's move on. So I want to kind of close at the end of this talk. I want to kind of have a thought process of how it will be like in the future. So we have seen how everything can be put on the front end, like that everything is just, I can write all the Python code in the front end is really great, like I don't have to worry about the back end. I can just, send my friend an HTML file and double click and it will work. So that's pretty cool. But at the same time, we also see that, we can have a very lightweight, front end. It's just like a bunch of tags in HTML and things, if you set it properly, for example, in Django, like what I just showed you, then it will also work. So it's really, really good. But I think we're kind of seeing the movement here. We're seeing things are changing. We see that the traditional way of how we imagine developing a web application have been changed. So here's some of my opinions. You can disagree with it, and please come and let me know what you think about it, and we can talk about that later. So first of all, I think JavaScript is no longer needed for like front-end work, maybe. So, now if you look for jobs for front-end developers, you will see that, you need to write JavaScript, you need to write React and all stuff. So maybe it will change. A front-end developer don't need to write JavaScript. And JavaScript will be actually low level because, you create all this cool stuff with JavaScript, but the user, the people who are actually writing the page doesn't have to write JavaScript. So it will be considered low level. That's actually funny to think of it. Also, I think there's something that I like about it is that we will have more casual coders. For example, like PiScript is actually one of the idea is that we could actually encourage more kids to learn coding because they can see the thing is fun. You don't have to install Python, go through all this trouble of like all these paths are messed up and all these environments are all messed up. It just one environment is run on the browser. So we can teach Python in a much easier way. So there may be more casual coders, and also, like for example, again, if you don't need to write JavaScript, like learn an extra language when you create your front-end work, then it may be easier for people to write a Django app because they don't have to, they want interactivity, but they don't have to write JavaScript. They can just use HTMX. Also, since now, AI, especially generative AI is so popular, people will be interested in AI, and a lot of them may be not really like developers. So they can actually maybe create some like tools or something for their work using AI models, but making all this integration with the web app much easier when they don't have to worry too much about the complexity of developing a web app. So That's my opinion. So this is the end of the talk. And of course, I can't end the talk without plug-in for EuroPython. So it's in Prague, it's in July, and there are amazing talks about both, like, different kind of things. There will be talks about web development, Wasm, and all this cool stuff. Oh, there will be a Wasm summit, by the way. So if you're interested, there you go. So that's it. That's it from me. I have to get off the stage, I think. So thank you.
Great, thank you. That was also very inspiring. I think we have time for 1 or 2 questions. So if you have a question right now, is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So you could go to one of the microphones.
Do we have a microphone down there? I think someone's
There's
coming.
a mic there.
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
It's on.
Thanks.
Oh.
Now it is. There we go. Thanks. Awesome. I really like your talk, and I like seeing how we're coming full circle almost from hypertext to React and JavaScript, and now we're back in hypertext, and I really see the cool sides of HTMX and making life a lot easier for us. But I wonder, what's the experience like? I think mobile apps are a given, even if we don't like them always, and they might be overused in many circumstances. It's probably a situation we have to deal with anyway. How good is the experience in making natively feeling mobile apps using HTMX and templating languages? Is that something that is on the horizon or even already a reality?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question, because 2 days ago I ran a workshop that we use Beware to deploy some mobile app with Django web app as well. So actually, I think because now, since HTMX, I forgot to show you the point out in the code, but you still have to call in the HTMX and stuff. So, but again, you have the option to host it yourself. So if it's hosted in your Django project, you can deploy it together. Then it's not a problem. It's you can isolate it from CDN to another source, right? You can just have it in your project, and then once you have built and deployed your project, for example, using Beware, then it will be fine on your web. On your mobile as well. So if you're interested in deploying Beware, mobile with Beware, then talk to me later. I can also point you to my workshop material. Yeah.
Thank you. Jacob.
Thanks, Cheuk. Just a question, because I've even seen that you need to load some kind of payload, JavaScript, so that the engine is running. So what's the comparison between Pyodide and HTMX runtime in kind of bytes you have to download before everything starts to work?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. So of course, like if you go for the Wasm approach, you have everything on the front end. Of course, there will be the overhead of loading everything. So I'm not trying to make everything rosy and nice. But Pyodide is actually quite heavy because Python has actually got a lot of things inside. It's quite heavy. So and also together with other thing you pip install, or I guess you are not pip install in the browser, but you can have a way of hooking them in. So the bigger it is, for example, Panda is a big project. So the bigger it is, the longer the loading time. So the user will get annoyed a little bit, because you have to wait until you can use something. So yeah, so that is the comparison to HTMX. So HTMX approach will be more fast. You can just the web page will load really quickly until you kind of have some dynamic thing. Then the HTMX need to make the call, the request call. Then it will take some time. So it depends where you want the slowest point is. If you, for example, if you don't mind, or there's a way of again, you can choose MicroPython, which will take the loading time faster. So it depends on your use case again, where is the heaviest load it is, and does it really make the user experience good? You will have to try it out to see which approach is better. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheuk, big applause, please. Thank you so much.